name is Cynthia Thomaset, and I'm from Shillington, Pennsylvania, which is about an hour outside of Philadelphia. I'm a mixed media collage artist. That's my third job. It's my favorite job, but it's my third job. And I do a lot of art with clients as a therapist as well at my day job. So I was a closeted artist. I went to Kutztown University for undergraduate, and I was a communications and journalism major. All my friends were artists, but I was too afraid to take an art course there because it seemed like everybody was so much better than I was. So I've always done art and been creative, but it was only for my own pleasure. But then 11 years ago, we moved up here from Chester County, and I had gone through Goggleworks a lot and loved it, and wished I had the nerve or the confidence to apply for a studio there, but I didn't. But then I applied to get into a show at Goggleworks, and I had a dream. I collect postage stamps. I have like 100,000 of them from all over the world. And in my dream, I was going through a gallery and I saw all these really cool mixed media, watercolor postage stamps, paintings. And in my dream, I started crying in the gallery because I was like, these should have been mine. This should have been the art that I was doing. Like, why did I not get this idea first? And I woke up the next day and did the one that I could remember from my dream. And that one got into the show at Goggleworks. And I thought, oh, 500 submissions, they were taking like 100 pieces, but 2 of mine got in out of 500. So that gave me the confidence, and I applied to get into Goggleworks that day, and I got accepted like the next day. And I'm really happy to be part of that community. It's one of the coolest things about Reading, Pennsylvania, and I found some really great people there. I really love being a therapist and helping people. Sometimes I'm surprised that I actually get paid to do it because I really love it that much. And it all comes together really beautifully. And when I don't make time for my art, I actually start to feel super anxious. And so that's when I know like I have to go to my studio. I'm a studio artist at Goggleworks Center for the Arts in Reading, which is one of the biggest art centers in the United States. We have 40 studio artists and galleries and a cool restaurant and cafe and a movie theater, hot glass, cold glass, warm glass, woodworking, ceramics. So I rent a small space there and do my mixed media collage mostly. That's what I mostly do. It's hard for me to do commissions or specific things because I'm a process artist more than knowing what the end result is going to be. And so I like to not spend money on doing art. So lately for like 2 years actually, I've been painting old newspapers, and I love them from different countries. I love antique newspapers. I paint them and then I rip them up. And so sometimes the inspiration is just maybe the color that's in front of me. So I recently did one of Frida Kahlo, and the bronzy paper was like from the 1950s from France. I found it in my in-laws' attic in France, and that color, I was like, I want to make a person, like who? And I was like, oh my gosh, it reminds me of that painting that was one of her paintings that I copied when I did that collage. And so I also love the Reading Pagoda because I can see it from my driveway, and it's just such a beacon and a focal point in Reading, so that shows up a lot in my art. I do like doing little assemblages, which you'll see a shot of one from France that I did. My in-laws live in France in a house that's been in their family for like a lot of years, and my father-in-law throws nothing out. And so I put a little shadow box together with objects I found, and I do things like that frequently. I really like putting mixed media assemblages as well. So I love when people surprise themselves by making something beautiful when they say, I'm not creative. We have to put our inner critic away and not worry about what the process or the end result is, just worry about doing it. So a lot of times I'll put a bunch of beautifully painted newspaper out in front of someone and they'll be like, but I don't know how. I said, make it abstract. Just choose colors you like. Just put some glue stick on. Don't overanalyze it. Just start. And I explain that neurologically, when we do art, it's the same thing as exercise or meditation or doing things we love. It reduces the stress hormones in our body and in our brains, and gives yourself a chance to not be depressed or not be anxious. So knitting, any kind of art. also have an Instagram page, Cynthia J. Thomas at Art, Facebook page as well. I'd say Instagram is the most active place where I publicize what I'm doing, where my art is, and what my newest projects are. We're all creative. Just you can't be critical. You don't have to show it to everybody. Just do it.
Hey there, Golden Bears, and welcome back to a special quarantine edition of KU Hacks. Today we're going to be showing you some very important tips to help keep yourself safe and sane during this quarantine. The easiest way to keep yourself safe during these trying times is to make sure to wash your hands regularly. Every time you interact with something outside of your house, touch a surface, make sure you scrub those hands down if you think there's even a chance you could have touched something contaminated. The most important things to remember are to use hot water, you want to scrub for at least 20 seconds, and use lots of soap. The best way to remember the 20-second rule is it's Happy Birthday sung to yourself twice, or the beginning of the song All-Star by Smash Mouth right up till the word well in the line, well, the years start coming and they don't stop coming. That's my personal favorite way to keep track. Another very easy way to keep yourself and your family safe is to make sure to disinfect surfaces around your house, such as doorknobs, handrails, cutting boards, countertop, anything that you would be touching or interacting with regularly. So you just want to give that a wipe down with a nice disinfectant wipe, a Lysol or something if you can find it. The most important thing is to make sure to let it air dry. This is actually what kills the coronavirus, as the disinfectant does its job over time. It's also important to wear gloves if you can find them if you're going to be leaving the house for groceries or other essentials. It can really cut down on your exposure. Of course, physical health isn't the only thing you should be worried about during this pandemic. It's very important to keep yourself in safe and sound mind, and you can do this by going outside, getting some fresh air. Quarantine means staying isolated. It doesn't mean you don't have to go outside, so getting vitamin D, getting some sunshine will be very good for you. Another really good option would be to use your newfound free time to start a new book. Learn a new skill, learn a new language maybe. We all have a heck of a lot more time now, so what better way to spend it than by reading a nice book? This one you may not want to hear, but this would also be a very good time to get some spring cleaning done if you hadn't already begun doing that. And of course, you can always pick up a new hobby such as baking, cooking, anything productive just to keep your hands busy during this time. As you can clearly see from this scattershot of suggestions we have for you, there's really no end to the things you can spend your quarantine time doing. The main thing is to keep yourself healthy, keep yourself in a very good mindset, and just hang in there, because we're going to pull through this together. Thanks for joining us today on KU Hacks. Can't wait to see you again next time. And everybody hang in there.
So let's talk about comedy and laughter. Everyone knows comedy has the chance to drastically improve someone's mood. Being in the worst mood can be turned around when you just can't hold in a big belly laugh. From clowns in hospitals to the USO sending comedians to entertain troops overseas, the power of laughter cannot be underestimated. But how do we use it? See, our brains can easily be deceived. When sad, you can make yourself smile, and your brain will mistake you for being happy, releasing more endorphins. The same is true of laughter. Even forcing laughter will put us in a better headspace than if we never did at all. But let's take a second to look at where comedy came from. See, comedy can be traced back to the roots of humanity itself. Ancient Greeks like Aristophanes wrote comedy to be performed in plays. Burlesque and vaudeville shows, while not entirely comedies themselves, included comedy into their shows, and they skyrocketed into popularity. See, the fame of these shows could be accredited to what was going on when they started to hit their stride, this being World War I. It was a terrible time, and people were looking for some kind of escape. See, the earth can be a terrible place filled with terrible people, constantly doing unspeakable things. But sometimes, it can become too much, and we just want to tune it all out for an hour or two and laugh just to get away. And see, this concept of an escape is more relevant now than ever. With the current situation of the coronavirus ravaging our world, we already see some companies trying to distract people from the situation. HBO has already offered 500 free hours of streaming on their sites to keep people entertained and happy at home during the quarantine. Obviously, we can't go gather and see a movie or go to a comedy show, so some have taken to doing it from home. The improv show, The Armando Diaz Experience, is continuing to air with a full cast, all on webcams from their homes, so people are getting pretty creative. Morale and mental health are huge factors during a pandemic such as the one we're all living through. When all people have to focus on then is a bad situation, they can get aggravated, sad, and depressed. Comedy could be the thin line keeping us all from switching from civility to madness.
Hello, my name is Mark Schaefer, and I will be substituting Nick and Brian from Two Dudes Cinema Club for this episode, and I will be giving you my thoughts of the highly acclaimed Netflix series Dracula. So sit back and relax as we dive into the bloody and occult world of the supernatural. Before we start though, there will be light spoilers of the first two episodes, while the third and last episode will be spoiler free. Now let's sink our teeth into this show. Starting off, the series is based off Bram Stoker's original novel with the creators of 2010's Sherlock, Stephen Moffat, and Mark Gatiss overseeing the series. But there are key differences between the show and the book, from changing a few characters' importance to the overall story, a few final fates of characters changed, and combining two characters into one, but do not treat the changes as negative. They do little to impact the main original narrative up until the third and final episode, taking a different direction with the Dracula story. The first episode, titled Rules of the Beast, starts out quite similarly, with Jonathan Harker retelling his experience of his stay at Count Dracula's castle to a pair of nuns. But one change to Jonathan is that he's a lawyer under a firm representing the Count instead of a solicitor, traveling to his castle to sign paperwork for when he moves to England. Just as his fate in the book, Jonathan is forcibly trapped in the Count's castle, enduring the Count's torment, being a vessel to restore his youth and learn the ways of the people of England. A difference between Netflix's Dracula and the book's version is in the book, the Count was quite intelligent and a fast learner to understand any custom or language. Dracula in the show, when he drinks the blood of an individual, is able to absorb their experiences, memories, and even mannerisms, able to learn any language just by drinking someone's blood. As he would put it, blood is lives. During this retelling of events, a rather particular nun who seems rather unorthodox to the rest of her sisters, Sister Agatha, played by Dolly Wells, rails Jonathan for any and all information about Dracula, determined to understand and figure out why he follows the rules of vampire mythology. To test to see if any of the old legends are true, making observations about every detail, usually followed up by a cutting jab in a clever manner. It should be known that both actors, Dolly Wells, who plays Sister Agatha, and Claus Bane as Count Dracula, turn in wonderful performances, each matching each other's tempos with bitter yet fascination with each other that creates a powerful rivalry between the two, as the episode Blood Vessels picks up right after the previous episode, as it is centered as a murder mystery or clue type episode where we get to meet all of the passengers and crew, each being quite unique from almost all the corners of the world. But in this scenario, we know who the killer is in events, Dracula, and throughout the voyage we see how the Count handles at covering his tracks and any suspicions against himself, and holding back his addiction and craving for blood, as he preys on the Dimitri's crew and passengers until he's foiled, but still arriving in England, like in the books, but a bit later than he would assume. The final episode still retains fractions of the original story near the end, chasing some characters around but keeping them in similar situations even if the names are different. This episode, like throughout the rest of the show, tackles and explores Dracula as a character, because in this show, he is the main character, where in the books, he is relevant in the beginning, but pushed more to the side and in the shadows in the later half. This show is about him and the psychology of him, as a man gripping to these rules he must follow, but never knowing why. Like why he can't go out in the sunlight, why he fears the cross, or why he can't enter somewhere without being invited in. The show explores these themes to understand if they are real or not, and the nature of death, life, and the afterlife itself. This show captivated me for its 3 episodes, each being an hour and a half long, almost like watching a trilogy of films. I would definitely recommend Dracula to any of those who enjoy the original novel, vampires, or Dracula himself, or even a good adult drama with supernatural themes. Just know the show depicts blood, intense violence, and hints of sexual themes, but nothing graphic with no overt nudity like Game of Thrones. So sit down and give the show a watch. While talks about a second season is already in production, even though the show ends at a satisfying note, there is wiggle room for a continuation, but nothing that ruins what this season has created. Thank you for listening, and tune in next time for Two Dudes Cinema Club.